personal, given that we have not so many people. So it's going to be more of a discussion. And I think I like it. I can walk up to you and talk to you. I don't have to walk down to the end. Hi, introducing myself again. I mean, they've done justice, but yeah, just in a bulletin form in case you want to pick one thing. But what's most important is that I am an accessibility evangelist. You know what your evangelist and your pastor does, but I do it for accessibility for people with disabilities, and that is what is going to take us to our conversation for today: neuro-inclusive design, designing for cognitive diversity. So I don't think neuro-inclusion or neurodiversity is spoken about a lot in Nigeria. I mean, fortunately for us, there has been a little attention that has been given to the discussion on disability and people with disabilities. Just recently, I don't know who is active on Twitter. Everybody's active on Twitter. Can I see your hands if you have a Twitter account? Don't worry, I'm not asking you in case you're doing something. I will not ask for your hand, but you're on Twitter. Raise your hand. Great. So that means that everybody saw, or at least most people here saw the tweet that Hawa made about the fact that people with disabilities are not recognized in Nigeria. How many of you have entered Keke and you're sitting with someone that is using wheelchair? Have you ever? How about someone that is blind? No. Maybe someone that is mute and deaf, but you don't know because the person doesn't speak to you. You only know maybe when the person is speaking with the person they came with and they are signing, right? So that's how it is here in Nigeria. People with disabilities are not recognized, but it's a good thing that now we are speaking about it. We are creating the awareness for them. And maybe one day they'll get more attention and solutions will be provided for the issues that they have. But when we talk about disability and people with disabilities, cognitive disability is not mentioned. So I want to believe everybody here knows about disability. Do we know the different kinds of disabilities? Do we? Can someone help mention the different kinds of disabilities? Anybody? Volunteers? Here? Someone please give him the mic. Someone is speaking, please. Can someone give him the mic? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have visual,
Physical,
physical, neurological.
neurological.
Yeah.
Yeah. So physical and neurological. Interesting. So that's majorly how it is categorized in the last scale. But if you want to break it down further, you can say visual, you can say non-visual. You can say physical, you can say neurological. Now, if you want to break it down, you can say visual disabilities, hearing impairments. We're talking about the deaf and the mute people. Please don't say deaf and dumb. Dumb is a slur. I know you don't know, but let me just say, don't say deaf and dumb, say deaf and mute. Okay? So we have the deaf and the mute people, we have the people with paralysis, wheelchair users, and then we have, I've talked about the visual disabilities. So I do not outrightly say blind people because I can see people looking at me here, they are wearing glasses. You have a disability. I mean, you don't identify. You don't identify, that's nice. But you do have a disability, right? Whether it's hypermetropia, myopia, astigmatism, color blindness, you have a disability. You can say, God forbid, it's fine. No. Not everybody identifies. Oh. That's why you have people with disability and people who identify as people with disability. It's okay not to identify. It's fine. But you have a disability, right? So it's on a spectrum. Disability is on a spectrum. So this is me pretty much trying to introduce what we are going to talk about before we delve into neurological disability. So now we've talked about visual, hearing, speech, yeah, motor disabilities. Now there is cognitive disability. Now this disability, we've not even finished talking about physical disability, and now we want to talk about cognitive. We want to talk about autism. We want to talk about ADHD. I mean, a lot of people here are self-acclaimed OCD and ADHD patients. People who have not done any diagnosis at all. I mean, that's what is raining now. Oh, I I like to keep things clean too much. I must have OCD. Or I cannot focus. I must have ADHD. Right? So that's how we hear about it. But a lot of people have not gotten tested. They don't even know if they have it. Right? They don't know their spectrum. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about that part of disability that is highly mentioned because we cannot see you that you have a disability. You probably don't. It's just like telling your mom you're sick and you're not shaking. You will go to school now. You're not having fever, but you're sick. It's not possible. Your stomach is not paining you, but you're sick. We cannot see it, so it's not a problem. And it also applies to cognitive disability. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about it and how it can affect the way you design or build a product. Everybody here is a designer? No? Most people here are designers. I know our ops are here, developers. You guys are our ops. People here. I mean, we love you regardless. We want you to be here. Developers are here. Our bittersweet relationship, designers and developers. Anyway, welcome. I'm happy that developers are here and designers are here. So, in the course of our conversation today, we'll be discussing. Oh, that's why I brought this. I will not have to stretch. So we're going to be discussing neurodiversity and cognitive disability. We're going to define neuro-inclusive design and state why it matters. We're going to identify cognitive barriers in design. We're going to talk about neuro-inclusive principles. So we're going to be talking about real-world examples and tools to integrate neurodiversity in design. And finally, we're going to talk about the benefits of implementing neurodiverse design. Neurodiversity, neurodiverse. What does this mean? Very simple. That the brain has variation and differences on how it relates with the environment. And this affects how everybody here pays attention, learns, communicates, and interacts and experiences the world. That's simply what neurodiversity means. It means each and every one of us here, seated here, are different in the way we process information, in the way we speak to people, in the way we understand, in the way we communicate and interact with the environment. That's what it means. So when we're talking about neurodiversity, we are talking about neurotypical and neurodivergent. Right? So neurotypical are people who are seen as normal. I'm using parentheses because normal is relative. What can be normal to you might be abnormal to another person. But the person fits the normal human behavior description of the world. That means the person does not have focus issues. The person does not have any issue with obsession of maybe space, neatness, whatever. The person does not have any form of abnormal ability or disability. That is who we call a neurotypical person. Then who is neurodivergent? We are OCD people here. We are neurodivergent. The ADHD, the autism, right? We are the people that are neurodivergent. We don't conform to the normalcy of the world. We are different, right? So, now one thing I want us to understand is that neurodiversity is on a spectrum, right? And this is where we usually have an issue. Someone who has autism, right, can just have autism, issues with interacting with the environment. Now, it can be worse where it affects the person's speech, it affects the person's movements. That is extreme. So it can be like a 1, a 2. You might not really notice it until you communicate with the person. Then it can be like a 10, where as the person is even moving, the person is related, you know, this person is autistic. And it goes for all other disabilities, right? It's on this, it's on a spectrum. So that's why I believe that a lot of Nigerians are neurodiverse. I mean, it could be on a spectrum, but we have a problem. I think we have a problem. And I hope one day we begin to get ourselves diagnosed, right? So Like I mentioned before, these are cognitive or neurodiverse issues. So autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, Tourette syndrome, OCD, anxiety, PTSD. So the one that is very common that we always talk about is autism, because a lot of people are beginning to understand that their children are not possessed. Their children just have autism. Now we have Tourette's syndrome, right? Where the person glitches. We have celebrities, international celebrities that have Tourette. People like Billie Eilish, Lewis, they have Tourette syndrome. They tick. They call it tick. They tick. Even either it's like too much light or too much sound, or something just makes them tick, or they make sounds that they cannot control. That's Tourette syndrome. And then OCD, anxiety, PTSD. We are very conversant with these ones. Right? So now let's get on to our conversation for today. First, we already know what cognitive disabilities are, right? Disabilities that affect your person, how a person processes, understands, remembers, communicates information. We already talked about that, how the person experiences and interacts with the environment, right? When the person has issues interacting and relating with the environment, the person is autistic. Right? Sorry, the person has cognitive disability, and it can be autism, ADHD, or any kind of disability that we just looked at. Right? So let's go into neuro-inclusion. Neuro-inclusion is the practice of creating environments, systems, and experiences, whether they are digital, whether they are physical, whether it is communication, that recognize, respect, and support different cognitive sensory style. So I introduce cognitive disability because before you show respect for something, you understand it. You will know what it is. And now, we all know what it is, right? We know what neurodiversity is, yes? We all know what cognitive disability is, yes? No? You don't? Don't worry, I'll give you my slide personally so you go through it again. Okay, so now we know what neuro-inclusion is. How do we do this? What does it involve? Neuro-inclusion is an aspect of accessibility. Everybody here knows what accessibility is, right? Yes. We don't. Designing, building, accommodating people with disability in our products, that's accessibility, right? Now, neuro-inclusion is an aspect of accessibility. And in this case, it's not just physical accessibility, right? We're not just talking about the features you put and the things you do for people with disability. In this case, you're also looking at how the people who are using your product can focus, understand, memorize, and the emotions they feel when using your product. I'm pro-usability. I'm pro-usability and accessibility. It doesn't matter how beautiful your design looks. If someone is not able to use it, it's as good as nothing. Because as a designer, you should build for long term, right? You should build a product that is going to stand the test of time. You should build a product that in 5 years is working, right? We see what Google is doing. Every day, they make improvements. And you're able to continue to use them, right? Because they move with people's interaction and usability, right? We should aim to build products that will stand the test of time, are usable, right? So, and for a product to be usable, you're relating it to human beings. It's not just machine. They are human beings. People feel things when they are using your product. They feel interest. They feel surprise. They feel happiness. Whatever it is, your whatever emotion your product is pushing when it's trying to solve a problem, right? It's just like a fintech app that you're building for you to be able to convert dollar to naira. We know that a lot of fintech products now, we're having issues with them. There's always dollar issue. See, even yesterday, I was looking for a way to pay for my Apple ID. I cannot pay because all the fintechs, they are rejecting it, right? So when you now build something that is able to solve that problem, you're igniting emotion of happiness, right? The person that is using it is happy. So emotions that you're able to push when building your product is important. So
That's what we're talking about in neuro-inclusion. We're not just talking about physical, we're talking about experience as includes focus, understanding, memory, and emotions of your user. Now, why does it matter? In Nigeria, we have the habit of, if it's not happening to me, it's not my business. I'm sure we have it here. Okay, not all of us. Let me not judge us, right? But we are popular with that. If it's not happening to us or someone close to us, it's not our business. But that should be wrong, because 1 out of 7 people are neurodivergent, and that's over 1 billion people globally. We are like about 7 billion in the world. So 1 billion people is a lot of people to exclude. And a lot of us, like I said, I think a lot of Nigerians are neurodivergent. People should go and get yourself tested, me inclusive. So this is for people that have been tested, though, people that are sure that they have cognitive disability. And we also talked about the fact that cognitive disability is on a spectrum. So your own might be 2/10, not too bad, or 1/10. But it doesn't mean it's not there. And it's actually affecting the way you interact with the environment. Don't worry, you don't have a problem. Knowing that you have a problem, you'll be able to solve it. So that's one of the reasons. 2, it improves experiences for everyone. When you include people with disabilities, people without disabilities benefit. An example of an application of accessibility is the lift. Yeah, the lift. The lift was initially designed for people who are wheelchair users. Now, which people are using the lift the most? You and I. Some of us are too lazy to use the staircase. Now we are crowding the lift. Even people that are using the wheelchair they don't see space to use the lift. You're enjoying it, right? But it's a product that was not built for you initially. But you get to see that you benefit. Another example, closed captions. A lot of us here are K-drama watchers, right? If you watch K-dramas, raise your hand. You don't watch K-dramas? Are you joking? How about anime? Oh, okay, anime. No, you don't watch. This is serious. You don't watch K-drama. Don't talk about this later. It's a problem. How can you not watch K-drama? But you watch international series, yeah? And you use closed captions. So you're able to enjoy movies that are not in your language. But these closed captions were not designed for you. They were designed for deaf people. People that cannot hear. So they can read and understand and enjoy. But now you're using it for other things. It's benefiting you using it. So you get to find out that when you build for accessibility for people with disabilities, people who do not have disabilities, and this is like just 2 examples out of many, right? So it strengthens the brand, trust, and community. Imagine building a product that people with disabilities can use. It's trust. So when even people without disabilities, see, this person is inclusive of people with disabilities. That means they care about me too, that I don't have a disability, right? So it builds trust and a strong community because more people get to use your products, right? And it's a moral and legal responsibility. Yes, you say it does not concern you, but it's a good thing to do. It's good to be kind. It's good to be accommodating. And if you say you don't want to do it morally, you do it by force, legally. Because there are laws now that protect these people. As a brand, and I'm sure all of us are aiming to work with international brands, it might not be it might not be implemented as much in Nigeria, but of course it's implemented in Canada, it's implemented in the US, Europe, and other European countries rather. So if you aim to work with an international brand that you don't build for accessibility, when they sue the brand, they will sack you because you want them to lose money, right? So if you don't want to do it by choice, you will do it by force. But either way, it's a good thing to do. So these are the reasons why it matters. So what are some of these cognitive barriers in design? Language and content. When the content is overwhelming, without breaks, ambiguous tones and labels, and jargon. Let me explain. You're designing. You're working with your UX writer. You say, create copy for me. We know your brand is a technical brand, right? You're building for a technical brand. You say, create copies for me. You use all the big technical words inside that people don't understand, right? People that do not take extra courses on what you're doing do not understand. Now, if you have issues with it as a neurotypical person, Imagine the kind of problem someone who has autism, someone who is not able to understand fast, someone who has dyslexia, let's take that for instance, dyslexia, not being able to read words properly, right? Imagine now someone who has that kind of issues going to your product or is using your product. How easy is it going to be for them? Tough, right? So this is actually a problem that we need to focus and create solutions for. Or you're writing a content and they are in large chunks. A lot of us use scanning methods to read, right? A lot of us like to scan through things. It makes it faster. Get to the point. So when your words are too chunked up together and people are not able to read it to get the point, it becomes difficult. They leave your product and go to the next one that is easy for them. Right? So this is a problem. Another issue is navigation and structure. Unstructured layouts, hidden menus, inconsistent button placement, and labels. Right? So you should use the correct structure. Why is that? When you build a product, let me explain this. When you're building a product, right, and a product comes to life, people who, let's say for instance, blind users, right, they cannot see what is on the screen, right? How do they assess or how do they perceive that product? They use an assistive technology called the screen reader, right? So this screen reader announces what is on the screen to them. And for our I know developers are here. Let me catch your attention. So for our developers here who code, use HTML tags and attributes, right, for labeling. The appropriate tags and attributes for labeling. So when you use these appropriate tags for labeling and structure, you use the correct heading, correct paragraph, you do it the right way. The screen reader is able to pick because it's announcing, right? It's able to pick, oh, this is a heading. It tells the person this is a heading and it announces what the heading is. It tells the person this is a paragraph. It tells the person this is a button because you're using the appropriate thing. Now, it is a problem because a lot of our developers are magicians. I'm shading you, please, yes. They do not want to use the appropriate tags and attributes. A lot of div. The screen reader does not read that. I know you want to make it more beautiful. You want to make it niche, you know. You built it from the scratch and all. But as much as you can, please, use the right tags because it is helpful for people who cannot see. That beautiful thing that you're designing or you're building, that the designer has designed, right? That beautiful thing that you want to bring to life, use the appropriate tags so that people who cannot see can also enjoy whatever you've built, right? So that is a problem and that's how to solve it. Next problem, visuals and sensory load. Cluttered pages, flashing animation, poor contrast, and poor color use. Let me come. It's like more designers are here. So let me come here because I want to shade you people too. And this is why designers and developers are always fighting. You want everything to be moving on the page, everything to be flashing, everything to be dancing. They are complaining. They are not happy. Right? You want everything to be moving, everything. You guys are wonderful designers. I see the design and I'm like, wow, very beautiful. But in as much as we have an unending beef with the developers and we can never make it easy for them, yes, I agree. But please, let us make it easy for our users who have cognitive disabilities to use. Too much flashing, too much sensitive light. It actually induces an issue, a big issue. I'm looking for the word. Sorry. What is that cognitive? I'm sorry. But it induces a cognitive problem where the person can seize a hair. Seizure. What's that sickness called? Thank you. Why did he lose? Where did he go out from my head? Epilepsy, yes. So when someone is a big issue, it's a big problem. And the funny thing is that we don't get to see this as a big problem because we're in Nigeria, where nobody is going to, sue you or anything. If you try I'm abroad, you build products, you give me epilepsy, you go pay money, you go to jail, you will do jail, right? Jokes aside, I'm joking. But yeah, it's serious. because it's actually a life and death situation. Someone can seize and die, right? And these flashings can actually cause seizure and epilepsy, poor contrast, and poor color use. Normally, people here wearing glasses. If I tell them now to remove their glass and read something, they will know, hello, are people wearing glasses? I'm talking about you people now. If you tell them to remove their glasses and read something, they're not able to read it. Right? And this is for mild visual disability. Now imagine someone that has a very strong visual disability, right? And you use poor contrast, bad color or poor color use. Someone that is colorblind, use a poor color use, and things like that. It's not going to be easy for the person to enjoy or use your product. Then memory and information load, poor placeholder labels, long instructions not visible during tasks, repetitive information on the page. It's a good thing that I have images that are going to explain this for us. And decision making and feedback system. This one is very important. That's why I want to explain it. Your product should give feedback to your users. Your users should know that they are doing the right thing, right? Give them consistent feedback. For example, you post a story on WhatsApp. What does it say? Status updated. And it even tells you can undo, right? These are little things that you might not notice that are important because it tells you that you've posted that thing. Imagine it doesn't tell you, and maybe your internet is bad. Your product, whatever you posted or your story does not go, and you thought you posted. Imagine it's somebody's birthday now, and the person is somebody like me that is going to beef you, and I'll do you back. If you don't post me, I will not post you. You now post the person and it did not go. What will now happen? You will beef or you fight. And you just go about your day. Because there's no updates. Right? These are minor things you might not take notice of, but they are important. So let's look at the core principles of neuro-inclusive design. So there are actually principles that are going to guide you. That's the good thing about this. Clarity and simplicity. Make your content structure easy to perceive and understand. Use plain, straightforward language. No need for big English. You can make it simple for people to understand. Present your information in small, digestible chunks so that people who want to scan can scan. And people who are prone to cognitive load, they will avoid that. Maintain a clear visual hierarchy. We already talked about structure. Properly structured. I'm beaconing on our designers and our developers. Use the proper structure. Okay? Avoid unnecessary jargon and ambiguity. Yes, we know you know your onions, but if you're not speaking to that particular group, don't make it complicated. Avoid cluttered interfaces and information overload. Focus on essential elements. Remove distractions such as autoplay videos and flashing. Now, this is not me saying you should not put autoplay videos on your landing page or whatever, but create a feature where the user can pause it. I don't want to watch it all the time. I don't want it to keep going on and on the animation, right? Let there be a feature where I can pause it or remove it or stop it, right? That's one way to do that. When you say clarity, what do you mean? Something like this. Now compare these two things, right? Which one is more easy to read and understand? Green or red? And this is not just because green means good and red means bad, but from where you're sitting, which one will you most likely read faster? For some reason, I feel like our attention span is reducing. So things like this help us read faster. When there is smaller chunks, we are able to scan faster and read and go to the next thing, yeah? So make it easier for people to read. And remember, when it is accessible for people with disabilities, everybody benefits, right? Right? Thank you. Another thing is consistency. Predictability reduces mental effort and builds confidence. What does that statement mean? Let your users be able to predict what is going to happen. You're building a fintech app just like every other person. I know you want to be special, but let it be something that they will predict out of this fintech app. We know that it's going to be able to have transaction history. It's going to have this. It's going to have that. They should not be looking for it when they open your app, right? It should not be in complicated places where they don't know it's going to be and confuse them, right? Let it be familiar. Keep your navigation, control, and layout familiar across all screens. Use consistent icons, color, and tone of voice. Align visual and behavioral patterns so users know what to expect. When I was getting into design newly, my mentor is here, and I can see them. They were emphasizing on using the same icon. This is the problem we usually have. I will use outline and fill in one design. And that is confusing because what is it showing? Are you showing that it has you have used it, the button has been clicked? Like what is going on? Are you trying to confuse your user? Therefore, people who are easily confused, right? Or people who have focus issues and don't have time, you're making things even more difficult for them. Right? So this is an image explaining that. The first image, more than one color. And there's no show, there's no show on the background that, okay, oh, you clicked home and then it turned red. Nothing like that is indicating that an action has been made. So it's just like, it's static and it's different color. It's going to confuse the user. What do I do? What have I done? What action am I to take? But this one is different. They're the same, right? So they know that no action has been taken yet. And when I click on it, it's probably going to change color, show that an action has been taken and things like that. So those things might seem little, but they are the important things you should pay attention to while doing your design. Flexibility, offer options that respect different ways of thinking and sensing. I already mentioned that if you're going to put animation, your user should be able to pause it. Right? That's one way you show that you respect. You're not shoving the animation into their throats. You're giving them a choice to choose whether they want to watch it or not. They want to watch it 10 times or not, right? Provide multiple ways to consume content. I already mentioned that when you're building or you're designing a web, it's not just people who are seeing that, perceiving that web. I know that, I don't know if everybody knew about this before now, but your website is not just perceived through sites. Some people are listening to your website, right? Some people are using screen readers to access your website or your product or whatever. So give them a choice, right? Provide text, visual, and audio content. What do I mean? If you're building a visual, say a media, a media product, sorry, a media product, right? And there's room to provide video. Create a feature where there can be transcripts for people who cannot watch that video so that they can read what is on the video, right? Also create a feature where the transcript can be read to them, right? So provide accessible formats as well of your products, whether it's in PDF format, video with transcripts. I already mentioned that. Images with alt text. Now, this one is the one that we are trying to learn. And now this is a responsibility for everybody, especially people who use social media. Who noticed that TikTok is now accessible for people with disabilities? I'm sure you did not know that, but the blind users are now enjoying TikTok as much as you are. So how do you make their experience even better? Things like this. When you post that beautiful picture, have you noticed that there's an option for you to put alt text? Nobody has noticed it. You have. If you've noticed it, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay, I mean, 2, 3 people, not bad. 4, at least you're noticing it. So after today, just go and check. Check your accessibility. There's a feature for you to add alt text. Now, for we users, right, we can also help out. When you post that beautiful picture, post an alt text, a description of the picture, so that the blind user who is scrolling through your page can also know what you posted and enjoy it, right? If it's not a video, if it's just a picture. So allow personalization, change font size, spacing, color mode. So Apple has done this. I know a lot of us here are Apple users. If you're using an Apple phone, raise your hand. Please, this is not a fight between Android and iOS. So I just want to give an example. If you're using an Apple phone, raise your hand. Hello. Hello. Mostly developer guys. I know it's mostly developer people that are here. Hello. If you're using an Apple phone, please raise your hand. Nobody is using an Apple phone. Samsung people. Hey. Oh, yeah, rich people. Sorry. Okay. So for Apple users, you find out that your um there are features where I mean all phones have that, but because I use Apple, I know that one more. So I can give you exact details of what I want to talk about. You can actually change your font size. There's an accessibility feature on your Apple phone. Has anybody ever tried to go to that? There's an accessibility feature on your Apple phone. Okay. So focus and attention help users stay oriented and focused by implementing focus order. We talked about focus order in the last picture where if an action is taken, they should know that an action is taken, right? It's mostly indicated through like a borderline that shows, oh, that you're focusing on something or a button or something, right? So make it easier for them to understand what they are doing. Avoid unnecessary motion. We talked about that. Break long process into small guided steps. This is an example of feedback, right? So the person has passed step one, looks good. You can go to the next step. And the stages, the order tells them that, okay, they finished step one. That means they are going to step two. Communicating makes it easier for you to interact or use a product, right? Emotional safety, create calm, supportive, non-triggering experiences. We've mentioned this a lot of times. Avoid flashing videos for that are going to trigger. Provide examples and contextual hints. Keep instructions visible. Something like this, right? So they should know where to put the email. Give them an example. This is an example of what you're looking for, right? So they know what they are doing. See the instructions. As much as possible, implement instructions where you're creating forms. So let's talk about examples of brands that implement inclusive design. Before now, I mentioned Google. I've mentioned Apple. Does anybody know or have used any product that it was accessible for them, that they noticed accessibility, aside Google and Apple? Nobody. Nobody. I guess this one will be assignment. I don't know how I'm going to get the assignment, but shall do it. So these are some of the tools you can use. So this, if you notice, this talk covered not just for designers, but for developers and even writers. So here are some tools that you can use. I'm not going to read them aloud, but fortunately my slide is going to be available. You can also take a picture of it, right? My slide will be available for you to go through it. So I'm going to end this talk by saying, neurodivergence is not a lack of intelligence. It doesn't mean the person is stupid. Someone that is autistic is not stupid. Someone that has ADHD is not stupid. And that is why when I started, I said, don't say deaf and dumb. Because dumb is a slur used for stupid people. Say deaf and mute. Okay? So I'm ending the talk with this statement. And I want you to connect with me. This is my medium. I write articles about accessibility. So if you're trying to get into accessibility for the first time and you want to understand it, or you already have prior experience on it, please check out my article on Medium, scan the QR code, and that is my LinkedIn. Ooh. Yeah, thank you. So, does anybody have questions?
Big round of applause for Victoria.
More now. I did not try. Thank you. Does anybody have questions?
You can only take one, guys. Time is fast.
Good evening. So I would like to ask for people who are working on fintech products and have a lot of context with data. How do you? I said, how do you work with inclusivity for data-focused products where you have to predict. You have to show a lot of context for numbers. How do you include like screen readers and things like that? I mean, there's no alt text for data. You just have to put it out there. So how does it work
Is the
with it?
data written data?
I mean, the volume is might be just trying what I'm
You're
trying
talking
to
about
say.
the size of the data.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
To make it
let's say,
inclusive,
for instance, a written article. Is it as long as an article?
something like that.
So, screen readers read documents.
Okay.
Screen readers do not just read websites and products. People who read articles also use screen readers. It reads tags, like I mentioned, attributes, your heading, your 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 heading and your paragraph. So in your paragraph, that's where the written content is, right? It reads it. So as long as the person that is coding it, back to the developers, as long as they're using the right tag, I'm pointing at you guys. As long as developers are using the right tag, right? So definitely it's going to read. And if it is you're using a platform that is accessible, like Google Docs, Microsoft, these are accessible products that accept screen readers. So they will definitely be able to go through the data. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question. Oh, two. Are you probably ask like you're not listening to me? Hey. I mean, I'm happy you have questions.
Yeah, we spoke on accessibility. So your QR code is not accessible.
Why is it not accessible?
I don't even know why.
What is the issue?
It's saying error one thing.
That's not accessibility. That's that's not accessibility. Oh, you want to drag me back? Wow.
Ora for ora, nice.
Wow. That's not accessible issue. That's technical issue. You know win. Okay.
Last person, please. Time.
All right.
Okay. Oh, okay. Victoria Ottah on LinkedIn. Yeah. Then Medium, Victoria Nina blog.
All right. Good afternoon. Good evening. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation on accessibility. So I want to ask in Nigeria, like you mentioned in your presentation, there are no laws. Like there are laws, but maybe they are not really being enforced to protect people with disability. So how do we build our culture here in Nigeria on building accessible products, especially in a situation where in Nigeria where some companies that you work in, they want their future out tomorrow. They want it out. So how do you now build our culture or balance high deadlines with building for accessibility? Because the Nigerian system is if it does not affect me, it does not concern me, like you mentioned. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So first off, there is a law now. The Nigeria Disability Act 2018. It was enacted in 2018. So there is a law that is protecting people with disabilities now. More than now, the thing is, there's no digital law. I don't think there's any digital law in the Disability Act, but we are working on that, right? That's one. Two, accessibility is just being recently implemented and awareness is being created for it. And a lot of our orgas, we have to do orga-centered design. Accessibility or no accessibility. You have to do what your orga says. That's what we are suffering here in Nigeria, right? So it is a problem. It can be a problem, yes. It's a problem that designers face. So you're only going to do your best, right, to implement accessibility as much as you can from your own end. That is working with your team, talking to your boss, and working with other stakeholders, right? You're going to do your own part, but you cannot do more than is required. Like, you cannot do more than you can. If it's not accepted, there's nothing you can do, but you're just going to do your own part. That's all I can say about it, right? But if you're working for an international brand, you must. You must. So now you don't even know, because there is a law now and there are good lawyers, they can still sue you. You don't know. You don't know where you're failing from. So just do what is right. That's what I would say. No other question, right? Someone raised their hand at the back. No other question from you. Are you good? Was I able to touch your question? I thought someone raised their hand. No. Okay, just him. Who are you pointing at? You don't have a question. Okay, great. Thank you for listening to
A
me.
round of applause for Victoria. Thank you so much, Victoria, for that session. Thank you, Victoria. Please let's clap for Victoria once more.